Hey guys, how are you? Welcome back to my garden. If you're new here, hi, I'm Dominika. So today I want to give you an update on my micro dwarf tomato project. So a little bit of a recap. I've been balcony and container gardening for nearly 12 years now, and it is something that I do professionally, but in my own garden I still feel like an amateur because I experiment a lot because my garden is in the shade for most of the day. So I'm working with small space and with the shade, so I'm constantly searching for new plants, ornamental and especially edible plants that can possibly grow in the shade. And over the years I tried different plants that gave me a really nice harvest, but I'm always searching for something else, something more. What else can I grow in the shade in my small space garden? So a couple of years ago I started to experiment with tomatoes. Obviously tomatoes, they need full sun exposure, they need as much sun as they can get. But I came across micro dwarf tomatoes, mini tomatoes that grow only to about 40 centimeters in height, even smaller. So I tried them a couple of years ago, then I tried them again last year, and I saw that there was a potential. So this year I decided, okay, let's take it up a notch, let's try different varieties, and let's see how they do. So this year I planted 6 micro dwarf tomato varieties in my container garden. I shared that whole process with you on my YouTube channel, so if that's something that you are interested in, something that you would like to try yourself, you will find a video where I talk about the varieties, we sow them together. Then I have another video where I transfer them to their final containers in my balcony garden, and today is going to be the final video where I show you how it all went. When we kind of sum it up, we're gonna do a little bit of a taste test. I'm gonna compare the different varieties in terms of productivity, in terms of how they taste. Okay, so in just a second I'm gonna show you each variety that I grew this year. I'm gonna tell you a little bit more about it. I'm gonna compare them. We're gonna do a little bit of a taste test, but there are a couple of things that I wanted to say at first before we begin. And first things first, it was a very positive experience. I would highly encourage you to give a try to micro dwarf tomatoes if you are someone who gardens in the shade. If you have a balcony or terrace that's facing north or northeast, you can still grow micro dwarf tomatoes successfully. The key to success is to place them in the brightest possible spot. Even if you don't receive any direct sunlight at all, try to place them in an area of your garden that does receive bright light. Not a deep shade, but at least bright light. I placed my tomatoes strategically on the railing planters here, because this area of my garden receives the most sunlight. Then the second thing I wanted to say, it's a feedback that I heard from a couple of people that also tried micro dwarf tomatoes, and they said that as long as it was successful in terms of the harvest, like their tomatoes grew healthy, they produced a lot, but the tomatoes didn't taste well. They tasted like plastic or just didn't have any flavor at all. And that's something that I really want to talk about, because I think there's this misconception that because you grow something at home, it should taste better than what's available at the grocery store. And when it comes to tomatoes, that's not always going to be the case, because there's so many thousands of varieties of tomatoes available out there. And truth be told, not all of these varieties are worth trying. Not all of these varieties are tasty. So obviously the key to success is to pick a variety that's gonna have a really nice flavor. So with micro dwarf tomatoes, the tricky part is that these were bred to stay small, to stay compact. And oftentimes when we breed plants to show a specific characteristic, we lose some other qualities in the process. And with micro dwarfs, that's often the flavor, the taste, and the aroma of the tomatoes. So ideally, we want to find varieties that stay small, that stay compact, but also taste well. Is it possible? Absolutely yes. And I have a couple of varieties in my garden right now that I think are worth recommendation, because they stay small and they also taste really well. So let's go. All right, we are gonna start with the vertical planter here. In this planter I have 2 different types of tomatoes. We are gonna go one by one. So let's start with this one, Nina Neutron. I'm not hiding, this variety I was most excited about, simply because how small it stays. Take a look at this, you guys. This is the mature size of Nina Neutron. It only grows to about 10 centimeters in height and about 15 centimeters wide. It is probably the smallest tomato variety that there is available out there. I haven't seen anything smaller than this. But despite its small size, it's absolutely covered with fruit. And it's a tomato that in my garden, from all the varieties that I grew, this one was the first one to flower, the first one to produce fruit, and it's been producing fruit for at least 3 weeks now. And there's still plenty of tomato flowers, plenty of green tomatoes, so it's still gonna be producing for quite some time. Now, as I said, it's covered with fruit, and what I find the most exciting about this variety is that these tomatoes are all kind of different size. You have the teeny tiny ones, like really neutron size, and then you have slightly bigger ones. So I think it's a really fun variety to grow if you don't have a lot of space, if you only have windowsills, if you don't even have a balcony, if you only have windowsills to work with. I think Nina Neutron is worth trying. So let's do a little bit of a taste test here. Now, I've already tasted most of these tomatoes, obviously. I've been harvesting Nina Neutron for 3 weeks now. So let's do a live test. It is pretty tasty. Now, obviously, depends on what you are searching for, but this is a bit of a sour tomato. It's definitely not tasteless. Like, you know, there are varieties that taste absolutely nothing. It definitely has a flavor. It's not a very strong flavor. It's rather sour flavor. That's something that I would add to salads, or maybe if you want to kind of like a tomato flavor, but not too sweet, or rather on the sour side. I'm not sure if I'm making any sense. But yeah, it's a pretty sour tomato, but it's still very tasty tomato. So I think that's a good compromise between how small it stays, how much it produces, and what it actually gives you. So I'm a huge fan of Nina Neutron. Highly recommend you to give it a try. Alright, so now let's move on to the second variety that I have in the vertical planter. Funny Plum Orange. Yet another very short micro dwarf tomato, only grows to about 10 centimeters tall, just like Nina Neutron. It is slightly larger. It's probably about 20 centimeters in width. I have 2 of these, and similarly to Nina Neutron, it's quite productive variety. As you can see, the plant is completely covered with fruit. The fruit is bigger than that on Nina Neutron. As you can see, I absolutely love these kind of tear-shaped or pear-shaped fruit. We have orange tomatoes in here. Now, Funny Plum comes in 3 different varieties. It comes in yellow, orange, and red. So I picked the orange variety. It started to produce fruit quite early on in the season as well, and it's been producing for the past probably 2 to 3 weeks as well. So let's give it a taste test, because I actually don't even remember how it tastes. Yeah, definitely sweeter than Nina Neutron, more fleshy. Like Nina Neutron is really juicy, this one is more fleshy. I really love the flavor. It has like a sweet sour flavor, very tasty. I think that's a great variety to recommend as well. Really tasty. Alright, so we're going to start with the railing planters now. In the railing planters I have slightly larger varieties, so these that reach about 30 to 40 centimeters in height. And you will have to excuse me, because my tomatoes, they grew really healthy, really beautiful, until I accidentally brought red spider mites from work. And red spider mites, they are like wildfire. They spread everywhere within days. I have it under control now, but some of my tomatoes were badly affected, especially this poor variety. Not only got affected by spider mites, but wind also had no mercy on it. As you can see, it's staked absolutely everywhere. But despite all that, you see how incredibly productive this variety is. It's covered with fruit. So this is Bunny Hope. This is a variety that I got as a gift with my tomato order, and that's really good, because I only ordered micro dwarf tomatoes and they saw that I only ordered micro dwarfs, so they gave me another micro dwarf variety to try, which is really cool. So Bunny Hope, we have rounded fruit, that classical cherry tomato type fruit, very productive variety. So let's give it a try. I already tasted it obviously, but you guys, I don't know what it is about this tomato, but when you bite into that fruit, first of all, super sweet, super juicy. But it's like when you bite into that tomato, you kind of feel like summer's here. You know what I mean? It just tastes summer. I cannot describe it any other way. Absolutely incredible variety, very tasty. Highly recommend. This variety, I find it to be incredibly resistant. It grew, look how healthy the whole plant is. Like, I'm gonna take it out of the thing. Look how beautiful, how healthy, and it did not get affected by spider mites. Like, all the tomatoes that I have in my garden were affected by spider mites, except for this variety. I mean, it does have a little bit of spider mites kind of damage on some of the leaves, but overall, look how beautiful and healthy this plant is. Absolutely incredible. It's also very productive. Did I even mention how it's called? Probably not. It's called Little Peeps. So Little Peeps, a very productive variety, very healthy variety. We have a lot of fruit everywhere, but the fruit takes a little bit more time to ripen. Like, I can harvest maybe 3-4 tomatoes at a time, but there is a ton of tomatoes on the plant. So maybe if you were to grow it in a slightly more sunny spot, you will harvest a little bit more tomatoes at a time. But nonetheless, beautiful, healthy fruit. We have these, again, these kind of pear, or should rather say tear drop shaped fruit that's orange. So let's give it a taste test. Oh, okay. I forgot how it tastes. Okay, so it surprises you at first because it is incredibly flavorful. Like, it really punches a lot of flavor once you bite into that fruit. Very sweet, like even sweeter than the bunny hop. Very sweet, very juicy. The skin is a little bit thicker, which may be a good thing if you wanted to use it in preserves. That's a good quality because then the fruit stays, you know, when you make preserves, if you have a tomato that has very soft skin, it kind of falls apart, and then when you have tomatoes that have a slightly thicker skin, they hold better in preserves. So a really good variety, incredible flavor, incredibly healthy plant, very productive plant, also worth recommendation. All right, we have two varieties left. We are going to start with Florida Petite. Florida Petite produces red fruit, and what is special about this one is that the fruit resembles like a full-size tomato in mini version, if you know what I mean. Like, these look like beefsteak tomatoes, but in tiny version. Now, Florida Petite was a variety that I was excited to try, but I'm a little bit disappointed. So far I harvested 3 tomatoes, you guys, and not necessarily because the plant isn't productive. I mean, it's not very productive, but it produces a little bit. But I'm experiencing blossom end rot. Now, blossom end rot is quite common, especially when you grow tomatoes in containers. And there are two main things that can cause blossom end rot. First is calcium deficiency, and the second thing is calcium transport. So calcium deficiency is, you know, in containers you need to fertilize your plants because your plants rely on you to provide all the nutrients they need to grow. So if they don't have enough calcium, that can cause blossom end rot. The second thing that can cause it is when the calcium transport is kind of bugged. When the soil dries out and you don't water regularly, you know, the calcium is not actively being transported. There are breaks in the calcium transport up to the fruit. This can cause blossom end rot. Now, none of this seems likely to be happening here because I planted my tomatoes in the exact same soil, I fertilized them exact same way, I watered them exact same way. So I don't experience blossom end rot with any other tomatoes that I have, so it's strange that it's only this plant that is experiencing this. But despite the blossom end rot, on some of the tomatoes, I tasted the fruit and it wasn't very tasty. I mean, the skin was really hard, which, as I said, it can be quality if you want to preserve your tomatoes, but if you want to just snack it off directly, you know, harvest it from the plant and just use it as a snacking tomato or use it in salads, I don't find that to be very pleasant to eat. That's very hard skin, and then the flavor wasn't there. Like, it just tasted nothing. Maybe it's just my experience. I only have one plant. I did share my seeds, and I planted seedlings for my clients, for my family members, for my friends. So they are all trying these micro dwarfs. They are all really excited. They all started to harvest already, but I don't have any feedback yet on the Florida Petite. Like, none of the people that I shared my seeds with and seedlings with has harvested from Florida Petite yet. So as of right now, this tomato variety did not convince me, and it's not something I would recommend. And lastly, Lois's Baby Tiger, a variety that also suffered a lot from red spider mites, but I see some new fresh growth appearing, so I'm very hopeful, and this plant is holding up so far. We have red and green fruit, rounded fruit with like red and green stripes. Not like very productive, but we do have a couple of tomatoes to snack on, so let's do it. Let's just pick one. It's very sweet. It's it doesn't have a ton of flavor, but it's also not tasteless. I want to point that out because some tomatoes are really tasteless. This doesn't have a lot of flavor, but it's still a very sweet, very juicy tomato. Something that you will add to your salads, maybe something that you can put on a sandwich. If you are really searching for like a nice punch of flavor, that's not gonna be it. But at the same time, it's definitely not. It's definitely a correct tomato, I would say. In terms of productivity, in terms of flavor, I would put it somewhere in the middle. Alright, so here they all are except for Florida Petite. So let's do some final sum up. So in terms of productivity, my top 3 picks for this year would be Bunny Hope, Nina Neutron, and Funny Plum Orange. Now, in terms of flavor, I personally liked the most Bunny Hope. It's the sweetest tomato, but then Little Peeps is also, that Little Peeps has like this very strong flavor. Like Bunny Hope is really sweet and nice, and Little Peeps just kind of surprises you when you bite into it. It's a mix of a sweet and sour flavor, so it definitely is high on the list. But the third place, I hesitate between Funny Plum Orange and Lois's Baby Tiger. They are both sweet. They are both really kind of not a ton of flavor, but also a very pleasant tomato just to snack on. The only difference between these two is in terms of like growing them is that Funny Plum Orange is definitely more productive than Lois's Baby Tiger, in my experience. It's also a very small tomato. So I think I will give a Funny Plum Orange my third place in terms of flavor. Alright you guys, so once again it was a very positive experience. I'm really happy that I gave it a try. Goes to show you that you can grow tomatoes even in the shade, even on a windowsill with some of these smaller varieties. So I hope that you found this whole experience interesting, inspiring, that it gave you an idea or maybe an envy to try to grow tomatoes yourself. If you found this helpful, I would appreciate if you could leave this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more container gardening content. I am definitely gonna be growing more micro dwarf tomatoes next year. I'm gonna create a playlist on my channel that you can come back to for tips and information. You'll find all the videos from this year and eventually any other videos that I will be recording in the future. So thanks so much for spending some time in the garden with me today. Hope you have a beautiful day, and we will see each other in the next video.